Hi, welcome to Focus on Framingham. This is our third episode, starting to record on April 15th. I'm your host, Mike Cunningham, and let's just get right into the news here. Let's see. I have some stories that are local and some that are not. By the way, you can reach me at Mike at focusonframingham.tv. See right there. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to email me and I will write back or mention you on the air. So, our first story is this one here. This is an article from the Martha Vineyards Times, mvtimes.com, and it's entitled "A Whiff of Trouble on the Martha's Vineyard." So basically, there's a ferry, and there was a big renovation of this ferry. It cost $17.5 million, and I'll read the first part of the article here. There was an odor problem aboard the Martha Vineyards ferry, just the latest in an ongoing string of issues since the ferry returned to service after $17.5 million refurbishment. Sewer gases crept into the air, according to Steamships Authority General Manager Robert Davis. He described the problem as periodic sewer gas odors stemming from pipe venting issues. Steamship Authority plumbers and Sensco Marine plumbers are at work on the problem. So I know that there was a leaking pipe, but he was unaware of what type of pipe it was. So if you're planning on going to Martha's Vineyards, you might want to keep an eye on the ferry situation, unless you don't mind the smell of raw sewage. So let's move on to our next article. And this is one that I actually took a photo of recently. I went to the McDonald's on Route 30, and I think I actually spelled kiosks wrong there. It's Kiosks, and basically they replaced the cashiers with these kiosks. Those are two-sided, so you're seeing one side and there's another three on the other side. There's a little drink cup dispenser there, and I was a little surprised. I wasn't expecting that. I didn't know that they had been rolling these things out, but according to this article from thestreet.com, it's entitled "Don't Like McDonald's Self-Serve Kiosks? Too bad, they're here to stay." And it goes on to say, at McDonald's stores, the self-service kiosks are multiplying fast. Half of all American McDonald's storefronts will have self-serve kiosks by the end of 2018. The company announced its earnings call on Tuesday, on January 30th. This was a few months ago. Part of the Experience of the Future platform, the fast food chain will spend about $2.4 billion on capital this year to accelerate the initiative as well as open new restaurants. The goal is to open 1,000 new locations 2018. That's a lot. So I actually found that the kiosk ordering went pretty smoothly. So unfortunately, the service is still pretty bad, especially at the Route 30 location. It used to be a lot better. It seems to just have gotten worse in the recent couple of years. So the next story I want to go over is this one here, and let's see, I want to bring up our email address there if you have any questions. Again, I'm Mike Cunningham, the host, and this next story was just kind of a general story. I saw it in the news. It's entitled, this is from Yahoo Lifestyle. Bathroom hand dryers are secretly gross, according to a new study. It goes on to say, this is an article by Alice Scholl. Using a hand dryer is typically considered to be one of the least nasty stages of using a public bathroom. You just washed your hands, and usually you don't have to touch anything to use one. So the assumption is that you just left all of those bathroom germs behind. Unfortunately, according to a new study, that isn't so. In fact, hand dryers are spreading something disgusting right onto you. Fecal particles. The paper published in the Applied and Environmental Microbiology involved the study of 3 separate bathrooms in the University of Connecticut. Scientists set off hand dryers in the bathrooms and placed a special plate just beneath them for 30 seconds. After testing the plates, it showed between 18 and 30 colonies of bacteria on them. Now you might ask, how do fecal particles end up in a hand dryer? Essentially, when you flush the toilet with its lid off, this sends fecal particles whizzing through the air. Now, if that's the case, I'm thinking the particles are already in the air. That's how they got into the machine. So, I mean, just because the machine's going to start blowing them out, you're already kind of in there anyway. So, let's see. Our next story. This was a really nice story. This is from Framingham source. The Framingham Flyers, which is the the channel, which is actually managed by Access Framingham currently. They won 2 local Emmys, 2 New England Emmy Awards for Best High School Newscast and Best Commercial. This article goes on to say Framingham High School won 2 Emmy Awards, and the 2018 Boston New England High School Student Production Awards. Flyer News won for the Best Newscast for its February 7th, 2018 episode produced by Framingham High School senior Megan Romney. Anchors for the episode were juniors Matt Noah and Sabrina Casey. The director was Colin Dowdy. This episode featured a report on the Framingham High School's robotics team, J&M Diner, and the later school start times. They also did a commercial. These newscasts are about 15 minutes. They air Monday through Friday. But they also won an award for Best Commercial. It was a 30-second commercial for the Danforth Art Museum. So I'm actually going to play that commercial here, so you can see it. Just cue that up here. And let's take a look at it. Actually, hold on. Let me fix the aspect ratio on it. All right. Let's go to that now.
Art matters to me because it's been part of my life for as long as I can remember.
I like art because I can mix paints to get the color I want.
You just get to put your creativity down on paper.
And whatever you think is art is what's important.
So if I can make art,
I can make art.
I can make art.
so can you.
So that was the Danforth Museum commercial. I'll probably use it as a PSA going onward in the show. So you'll probably see it a few more times. It's a pretty well done commercial. So let's take a look here. There's kind of turning to national news. There's a lot of organized efforts going on for a Mueller firing rapid response, which is being organized by the Office of Representative Chris Walsh in Framingham. You can sign up for that on act.moveon.org. Just look for your local rally, and this is basically, I think it's going to be the all-out riots that might happen if President Trump fires Mueller. And I think that's probably something that's just, because we can't stand for that type of behavior from the sitting president. The mayor has a 100-day report. This is from the Framingham FraminghamMA.gov website. It's entitled "Building of a City," and Mayor Spicer goes on to say that in making the first 100 days as a city and her first 100, actually, I guess this is not in her person, but in the making of the first 100 days as a city and her first 100 days in office, Mayor Spicer is reporting the progress that has been achieved. The mayor and her administration have been focused on a smooth transition to a city form of government by cultivating strong collaborative relationships with multiple leaders, community organizations, and constituents. As stated in Mayor Spicer's transition plan, the key areas were 1. A smooth transition to a city form of government, 2. Excellent in education and schools, and 3. Invigorating our economy, planned growth, balanced development, 4. Preservation of assets, and it just kind of goes on. So then they put some details here for each one of those items. Can take a look at it online. I'm sure if you Google Mayor or Framingham first 100 days, this will come up in the search results. So now we're going to take a break. So just pull up a commercial here, and we'll be back after this break. Hey, welcome back. The next topic I'm going to talk about is something that's near and dear to my heart, and it might be a little confusing or a little a little boring maybe to some of the viewers. But what I wanted to talk about was, if you're watching us on Access Framingham, that would be channel 3 RCN, channel 9 Comcast, or channel 43 Verizon. There's kind of an interesting way the signal actually gets to your TV screen. So I'm going to bring up this graphic here that I made. I worked with Access Framingham's engineer to verify that this was accurate. Now, it might look very confusing, and it actually is pretty confusing, but if you look at it, the top part is Access Framingham, the middle part is RCN, and the bottom part is a fire station. And you might be wondering why there's a fire station involved, and I'll get to that in a minute. Access Framingham moved to its 4 Vernon Street location, I think about 2 years ago. It previously was in the Fuller Middle School, which was kind of temporary. Back in 2006, Comcast wanted to get out of the cable access business. They had a studio at 14 Burr Street, which is also the Comcast head end for Framingham. And so they handed off the public access in Framingham to a nonprofit which was formed. The Board of Selectmen selected board members for the first board. I was there when that happened, but I did not join the first board, and they were able to set up and hire an executive director and move the facility to the Fuller Middle School location. It was always undersized. The playback system was in a bathroom. So, it wasn't optimal, and then they were able to get the deal on the the 4 Vernon Street property. So that's where they've been ever since. So go back to the graphic here. They use a product called TelView for playing back the video, so that's what you're watching right now if you're watching us there. And it's actually in high definition, and then it's bumped down to old standard definition, and then it's transmitted from Access Framingham to RCN's head end, which is on the 518 Union Avenue. You notice that I have red and green arrows. The red and green arrows signify what format the signal's in. And not to get too complicated, but it can either be analog or it can be digital. And if it's a red arrow, it's analog. If it's a green arrow, it's digital. The problem is that when it goes from one to another, you lose some of the picture quality. So going back to the picture here, you can see that it goes back and forth many times. So what happens is the signal gets a little bit fuzzier each time that happens. So what happens is the signals go to RCN, and I believe the educational and the government channel work the same way. They all come to RCN. It's then put out onto the RCN cable system from there, and then it's sent from another digital link to a fire station. The reason why it goes to the fire station is because the signals used to, a long time ago, go over a thing called the INET, the institutional network. And this was common in many towns where it was like a private or government kind of run internal cable system. They can run TV on it, they can run internet and other services on this INET. It was usually just kind of hobbled together. Portions of it would be on fiber optic, and then it would go to copper, and then it might go back to fiber optic again. And Comcast wanted to get out of that business too, and RCN picked up. I think it was required in a contract that they picked up handling of all the public educational government signals, and that's why they go to that's why they all go to RCN first. After RCN, then it goes to the fire station, and the way the INET was set up originally was it actually went through many of the town's municipal buildings, including the fire stations. And this one fire station just happened to kind of be a nexus of all of the signals throughout the time that it was first going through the INET, and then later on just directly from RCN to the fire station. So it goes to the fire station, and from there it gets split off to both Comcast and to Verizon. So it actually goes digital to analog again, then they pick it up and it goes digital to analog a few more times, and finally ends up on the cable TV signal that you're watching. What I'm hoping to see in the next couple of years, and this might come up as a topic for the contract that's up for renewal, I think this year, for both Comcast and Verizon, I think, are up this year. What really should happen is you shouldn't have that many arrows. You really should just have it come directly from Access Framingham right to the cable TV head end. It's only doing that for RCN, and that's only standard definition. It really should be high definition. All the channels are now in high definition. There's no reason not to have it in high definition. And it looks like the carriers, the cable operators, are working on providing high definition, but that seems to be an uphill battle. Right now, the only high definition channel is the government channel on RCN. That's it. I don't know if it's experimental or if they struck a deal with them. I don't know the history behind that. So what I want to see happen is in the contract renewals that they are required to provide high definition for all 3 channels on all 3 cable systems. And that's all technically feasible. There's no real big roadblocks in the way for that. So it's just a matter of getting the ball rolling on that. The other problem that government, public, and educational channels, usually referred to as PEG channels, have is that when you look at the guide, you don't know what's on any of the channels. They just have these big long blocks. there's no reason why you can't have the program guide have the programming for these channels. The channels can provide it monthly, maybe bi-weekly, and the cable operators can insert it into their guides. Now, some of the systems are a little complicated where they might have a guide data for several towns. They're all merged to one. Honestly, if the FCC said tomorrow you have to do this, they would find a way to do it. But there's nothing telling them that they have to do this. This is something that the citizens of the town have to demand. So hopefully that is addressed as well in these contract renewals that are coming up this month. In fact, there's a hearing that will probably have already happened by the time this airs. But I will tell you what happens, what comes out of that meeting, and we'll see if any of these issues can be addressed. I'd love to do this show and have it be in full high definition quality, although I'm actually only doing it in standard definition, but it would still look better. Even the older TV show content would look better doing it that way. So let's move on here. Another story that happened and will probably have already come and gone by the time this airs. The British Beer Company on Route 9 is closing on April 21st. Let's bring up the article about that. This was reported first, I think, by Framingham Source, which usually has all of the Framingham news. This is from Framingham Source. After a dozen years on Route 9, Framingham restaurant is closing. The restaurant lease is up, and the construction is planned next door to the restaurant. British Beer Company will close its doors on April 21st, said the restaurant today on April 11th. It goes on to say, we want to thank everyone for sharing their lives with us over the years. We've had the opportunity to meet so many great people. It's going to be a sad day when we have to close the doors. New owners have some great plans for the property, and we wish them well. If you miss the great food and comfortable atmosphere of BBC, consider one of the other pubs, all listed at britishbeer.com. So it's a small chain, although I think that they've been closing some of the other locations, including, it's noted here that the Walpole location closed the end of last year. Apparently, there's been several famous musicians over the years, including Duran Duran and James Blunt. Oh, I just missed the chance to punch him in the face. James Blunt, I guess, was there last year. So, somehow I wasn't notified. Let's move on here. Now, dovetailing with that story is one about what is the Howard Johnson's next door. I think I have a graphic for it here. Pull it up. Howard Johnson's. So this was a photo. This was a chart from Framingham Source, a graphic from Framingham Source showing the property outline. But there's a 6-story hotel proposed for the Route 9 in Framingham. We have a lot of hotels in this town. But this will be another one. A developer wants to demolish an existing 2-story hotel and replace it with a 95,000 square foot 6-story hotel on Route 9. Sonia Hotel LLC would like to demolish the Magdinson Hotel next to the British Beer Company restaurant on Route 9, according to the Framingham Planning Board. The Planning Board is scheduled to hear from the Lexington developer on the proposal for 130 Worcester Road at its meeting. This is back on December, I guess. But it looks like what they're planning on doing, if I understand this correctly, is they're going to connect the hotel. You can see where the British Beer Company right here on the left. I think they're going to try to connect both properties. So this hotel will kind of have like a built-in restaurant, which a lot of places do. That's kind of a draw, you know, if it can provide more than just a hotel. If it actually has a decent restaurant, that's a little bit more valuable. So it looks like the hotel will have 148 rooms, and I guess it will actually have less rooms than the hotel does now. And you know that hotel has that famous Howard Johnson's building. It used to be a Howard Johnson's. It was built in 1957. So I think all of that's going. So it's a little sad to see that going, because I always thought that the 50s stuff in the town was always kind of neat. So that's that. And another place that's closing, but just temporarily, is the Natick Apple store is closing for renovations. It closes on April 22nd, which probably already happened by the time you see this. But there's an Apple store in Marlborough, Chestnut Hill, Burlington, Dedham. This was broken by Susan Petroni at Framingham Source. And on the Apple website, it does show that, let's see, they have a little write-up. If you go to apple.com/retail/Natick collection, we're making the Apple Store you love even lovelier. Will be closed starting April 22nd. So there's real no date on when it will reopen, which I find interesting. That's typical Apple, I guess. They kind of keep things under wrap until the very last second. So I guess just keep an eye on that, and you'll find out when they reopen. Let's see. Mayor Spicer was sworn in at this year's president of the International Technology and Engineering Education Association, the ITEEA, at its annual conference in Atlanta, Georgia. Dr. Spicer, DTE, Distinguished Technology Educator, is the first African-American woman to be elected president of the ITEEA in its 80-year history. The ITEEA conference brings together world leaders in science, technology, engineering, and math, STEM, representing the business community, pre-K through 12 education and higher education institutions. The theme of the conference is building bridges with the STEM community and beyond. Dr. Spicer supports and acknowledges the importance of the role of STEM education in all areas of our lives. She's honored to accept the role of president of ITEEA. And there's just a note here. As Framingham's public schools move forward with the focus on STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, education, and we attract innovative businesses to our community, these relationships and partnerships, which I have already established and will continue to cultivate within this organization, will be an asset for Framingham, said Mayor Yvonne M. Spicer, the ex-officio member of the Framingham School Committee. So that's a nice story to hear. She also has a public calendar, by the way. I made a graphic for that. It's not very exciting, but let's see if I can pull it up here. Let's see, the mayor's schedule online. So anytime you want to know where and what she's doing, there it is. She keeps it all out there in the public to see. Just one other story I want to share. This is from Downtown Framingham, Inc. They have exciting news. This was according to their Facebook page. I'm going to put up our email and our website here so that you can email me if you have any questions. But I think, you know what, I'm actually going to wrap up the show. I'll talk about that story on our next show. So thanks everybody for watching. And we'll be on next week.